Good afternoon to all the participants and the research scholars and the delegates who have joined to this uh, webinar, pre-conference webinar on writing abstracts for conferences. On behalf of Changu Khanna Arts, Commerce, Science College, New Panvel Autonomous, as well as English Language Teachers Association of India, I take this opportunity to welcome our prominent resource persons, Honorable Dr. C.A. Lal, Professor and Director, School of Distance Education, University of Kerala, Honorable Dr. Z.N. Patil, former Professor and Head, Department of Training and Development, EFLU, Hyderabad, Honorable Dr. M.S. Xavier, Assistant Professor, Department of English, St. Joseph College, Autonomous, all the office bearers of ELTAI, including Dr. Elango, Dr. Arora, Dr. Ram, and our dynamic college principal, Honorable Professor Dr. S.K. Patil, Dr. B.D. Agao, our IQC coordinator, my colleagues, Professor S.N. Parkale, Mr. Abhishek, then Rupali ma'am, Ashwini ma'am, and all the delegates for this pre-conference webinar, writing abstracts, a conference is organized by our college as a part of 16th International and 52nd Annual Conference organized by English Language Teachers Association in collaboration with our college, which is scheduled on 8th, 9th, and 10th December 2022. So once again, warm welcome to everyone. Now I call upon Joseph to play the introductory video of English Language Teachers Association of India. Over to you, Joseph. Thank you very much, Joseph, for showing the video about English Language Teachers Association of India. Uh, our college principal, Honorable Professor Dr. S.K. Patil, is unable to join because of some unavoidable circumstances. So on behalf of him, I would like to introduce our college in 2 to 3 minutes. That is, our college, Changu Khana Thakur Arts, Commerce, Science College, New Panvel Autonomous, has been established in 1997 by Honorable Sri Ramchand Thakur, ex-MP and Chairman of JBSP Sanstha, in order to provide quality education to the students of Panvel as well as its vicinity. Established in 1997, this year, our college is also celebrating Silver Jubilee year and academic journey of 25 years successfully in terms of quality teaching, quality enhancement, as well as quality sustenance. In our college, we are having programs in the Faculty of Arts, Commerce, as well as Science, UG programs, PG programs, as well as PhD programs. With regards to the NAAC accreditation, our college has accomplished A grade during first cycle, as well as in the second cycle also we secured A grade, and in the third cycle, our college accomplished A+ grade with 3.61 CGPA. Along with these laurels in terms of accreditation, our college has one of the important milestone achieved, that is college with potential excellence is also offered or honored by the University Grants Commission to our college. Apart from this, our college has also accomplished Best College Award by the University of Mumbai. At the same time, our college has also been honored with the graded autonomy by UGC in the academic year 2019. Our college has produced a lot of merit holders in the University of Mumbai, and we believe in providing the quality education to the students and promote research activities also. By considering the research aptitude, attitude, and acumen of our students, our college has accomplished overall championship in Avishkar Research Convention successively for 9 years. So these are the academic things which we are having in our college. Apart from this, we are so happy that this year we are organizing this 3-day international conference in collaboration with English Language Teachers Association at our college, which will be held on 8th, 9th, and 10th December. With regards to the Department of English, it is a premier department of our college, and it also offers programs like BA in English, MA in English, and PhD in English Literature. This is, I would like to communicate about our college as well as Department of English. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. C.A. Lal, Professor of English, University of Kerala. He is there amongst us as a resource person. He is having more than 30 years of teaching experience in the teaching of English language as well as literature. He has delivered various sessions in various national as well as international conference, and he is also a trainer in India as well as abroad. So, sir, we welcome you on behalf of all of us, including the research scholars who are joined today for this webinar. And I request Honorable Dr. C.A. Lal to give us brief information about the theme of the conference, which is scheduled in the month of December 2022. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rajesh. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I am grateful to ELTAI for giving me this opportunity. I think it's indeed an honor to introduce to the audience today the theme of the conference and the thrust area that we will be focusing on in December when we all meet in Panvel. So the ELTAI has been conducting conferences every year, though there was slight disturbance during the COVID time. But and as evident from the title, it is a 16th International Conference. So all these years we have been deliberating on better ways and more effective ways of teaching English. And at this point, even at this point, into the second decade of 21st century, we have apprehensions about the condition of English in India. So that is what this conference is all about. how things are in India as far as teaching English is concerned, how far we have traveled, particularly since the efforts of ELTAI over the last 50 years, and the immense effort of ELTAI during the last couple of decades. Also, I say particularly, I would say, to go to the very roots, very remote parts of India, and trying to address issues related to teaching of English. So the present conference, which will happen in December, is called Indian in ELT, Imitative or Generative. And I have been particularly impressed by the overview that Dr. Yeole has given. He's the National Secretary of ELTAI, in the website, which I think everybody will be useful. Everybody would find useful. The other day, a scholar was asking me for ideas doing research, and I suggested to go through the overview, and perhaps you will get ideas. So, I'm not. The idea is not to pay encomiums to Dr. Yeole, but I thought that was a very good write-up in context too. Well, about English, learning English. English is more or less second language in the Indian context. It is learned mostly after the acquisition of the mother tongue, whatever the mother tongue may be. And India has quite a large number of mother tongues. So it's second language learning. And as Professor David Crystal half humorously observed in one of his talks a couple of years back, I think it was the early days of COVID or just before that, he was saying that performing a brain surgery is easy when compared to teaching a second language. Well, he was joking, but certainly he has made a point. It's very evident from the Indian context as well. Since independence, we have been handling English. Even before that, there has been a lot of attempts at teaching English, but still we find across the country young aspirants who have just come out of college finding it difficult to tackle interviews and then get into jobs and work and perform in the workplace due to problems related to English. And certainly we have quite a lot of English in our curriculum also. So what has been happening, and that is where we are trying to intervene. So English as a second language is no different from Hindi as a second language. Particularly talking from the context of Kerala, I would say that we teach Hindi a lot in Kerala. Again, I think I felt that the way Hindi is taught and the way English is taught are more or less the same, and the effect is also more or less the same. People come out of school, come out of college after several years of Hindi, several years of English. Still, they find it difficult to actually use Hindi or English. Well, one issue that probably is behind all this is predominantly the pedagogic, the aspects to the way we have been teaching English. One aspect which Dr. Yeole has highlighted in his overview is that we have, I will quote him, we have no idea about how the human brain processes language. The mysterious mind does not function so logically, procedurally, or scientifically, he says, which is a very pertinent truth. In schools as well as colleges, the English teachers or anybody with some knowledge of English is very sure that he or she is capable of teaching English effectively. But then it's not that easy. We think that English can be taught like building a little house. We put one brick on the other and with mortar in between to fix them. But a second language is not learned like that. It's not brick by brick. It's like a wild garden that grows simultaneously. Different plants growing at different pace. So it's not the movement is not necessarily from the basics, a monosyllabic word to a disyllabic and a trisyllabic word. The movement need not be from the written form to the spoken form. We have many issues that we still haven't addressed, or we still are in the basic stage of addressing. And our teaching of English has been predominantly still largely grammar based. well, we constantly have this issue with this discussion between English teachers, whether grammar should be taught and what is the role of grammar. While when we talk grammar, we always mean theoretical grammar, the grammar that is laid down in the books, rather than the grammar that runs through the language, like the lifeblood. Language is all about grammar, and grammar is all about language. But should we be conscious about this issue? As in fact, a while ago, as I was waiting for this particular webinar to begin, I was looking at a WhatsApp post made by a school friend. It's about a young man from Bali, Indonesia, who was saying that I did not go to a school, I never went to a university, I never had a course, but he actually speaks quite well. I speak fluent English. So, but then we have many examples in India also, where young people with no schooling whatsoever, no teacher whatsoever, speaking excellent English. So the question is, and people with a lot of schooling, with a lot of teachers, a lot of teaching, a lot of curriculum, seem to have problem. So where have we gone wrong? So 6 months exposure to the language and people speak English. And same about Hindi. In Kerala, as I said, Hindi is more or less compulsory and people happily learn Hindi, but then nobody is able to actually use Hindi. And if at all they start using, nobody will probably understand Hindi in a context where Hindi is the first language. But at the same time, a person from Kerala who goes and lives in Delhi for a while, or Mumbai for a while, easily picks up Hindi. So there is some problem. It sounds very easy, but we have somehow either made it very difficult, or we have misplaced our priorities or our pedagogic, what shall we say, principles related to teaching English as a second language. So I would say that in this conference, we should be asking the question, why do we want to learn English? We talk a lot about learning Sanskrit, for example. I have a colleague in the University of Kerala whose whole family speaks Sanskrit at home. So Sanskrit is a first language for them. But it is a rarity. Sanskrit is a language of scholarship, just as Latin or classical Greek would be. And we would want to learn Sanskrit or Latin for scholarship purpose. But we want to learn English or Hindi or any other language for that matter, which is not our mother tongue. Our purpose is to communicate. Our purpose is to make it our own so that we succeed in life, we use it in our everyday communication. So, but that is where we have failed. Perhaps we make no difference between teaching a subject and teaching a language. And we make no difference between teaching a language that is dead, that can be learned only for academic purposes, and a language that is very different, a language that you need so that you can talk, communicate, and get things done. So this is nothing new. This has been there all the time. And that is why particularly we are wondering whether the Western models that we have been following all these years have been helping us much. That is why we have been thinking of an Indian ELT. And particularly relevant would be the thoughts of Professor Kumara Vadivelu. Well, not very recent, but still we are familiar with it, and we have been talking about it for quite a while. We have been talking about the post method scene, and where we make English more contextual. He talks about particularity, where which requires the pedagogy to be sensitive to the group of people involved, the group of teachers. So English learned in Kerala, in a particular part of Kerala, is not similar to any other teaching learning context in any other part of the country. So each group that attempts to learn, each bunch of students, each teacher, each social milieu is unique. And maybe you need to exploit that information much more. Well, we have been doing it, we have been adapting. Perhaps we need to do more. Kumara Vadivelu also talks about the relationship between theory and practice, where he talks about how the teachers need to become theoreticians, because we carry a load of theories, but well, not very complicated theories, at least related to what should be taught in an English language classroom. All this we take into the classroom and we try to implement it. They're largely grammar-based, largely teacher-oriented kind of English teaching pedagogy that we carry to the classroom and try to execute and fail often. So the shift has to be to the teachers, the practicing teacher who also become the theoretician, where the practicing teacher draws from her or his experience and then, you know, speaks out and shares with his or her colleagues, that kind of thing. And also another third aspect that again Dr. Kumaravadi talks about is the possibility of exploring the resource called the students who come from different milieu and who would bring in a lot of cultural aspects into the classroom and which have to be unique. So the Western textbook might not really work in an Indian context. Certainly there is this problem because English works a lot in first language context. We perhaps would need to know how the idiom as it is used across the globe. But at least in the initial phase where we are addressing fluency, perhaps we need to contextualize much more where language has to be, where our culture and the things that are very close to our life, very close to the language also. So, and again, these are all themes that would be discussed, that needs to be discussed in the course of the 3 days of the conference. And finally, I would say that technology is another major aspect. This webinar itself was made possible by technology, but then we need to think of how much technology can we have, how much technology do we really need, how much is too much. All those things also perhaps should be deliberated in the coming conference. I'll conclude because time is short and I have been given 15 minutes and it's nearly over. And finally, through that, we hope to evolve an Indian model of ELT, which again wouldn't be a single monolithic thing. It will be highly eclectic, adapted to different contexts within India, from Kanyakumari up straight up to Kashmir. So I wish all of you all the best, and I make the best of this webinar while preparing your abstracts and you submit them for the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lal, for exploring various themes, sub-themes of the conference, which is going to happen in the 8th, 9th, and 10th December at our college. Now, I would like to introduce the prominent and renowned resource person for today's webinar, that is Professor Dr. Z.N. Patil, former professor and head Department of Training and Development, EFLU, Hyderabad. Dr. Z.N. Patil has got more than 47 years of teaching experience of English in language as well as literature in India as well as abroad. And at present, he is the president of English Language Teachers Association Pune chapter. I'm very happy to inform you that sir has delivered more than 100 keynote addresses in various national as well as international conference in India as well as abroad. He has written more than 20 textbooks, published more than 90 articles of national and international journals of high repute, and under the able guidance of Dr. Z.N. Patil, 24 students have completed their PhD in English language as well as literature. He has also evaluated more than 50 theses of various research scholars in India as well as in foreign university. And coincidentally, it's my pleasure to inform you that he happens to be my teacher, one of the greatest mentor. He has taught me English when I was student at University of Pune. So it's a versatile academician, linguist, a teacher of inspiration to everybody. And today we have amongst us Dr. Z.N. Patil. I request Dr. Z.N. Patil deliver his session and address to the delegates on the topic how to write effective abstract, because an abstract is the soul of our research papers. Over to Dr. Z.N. Patil.
Okay, thank you very much, Rajesh, for a very elaborate introduction. Good evening, friends and colleagues and students and researchers. It's a matter of pride and pleasure and privilege for me to be with you virtually today. As you know, the topic that I'm supposed to talk about is how to go about writing an abstract, a conference abstract, for example. Now, once I was talking to one of my researchers, he had just submitted his project report, the dissertation, and I said to him, why did you write so much for this particular dissertation? I would have been happy had you written just 90 pages or 95 pages. Why did you take the trouble of writing 200 pages for an MPhil dissertation? And he said, sir, I was very busy. I didn't have time. I didn't have enough time to be short. So I was amazed by this paradoxical statement. What he said was that he was very busy. He didn't have enough time, and therefore he couldn't shorten. If you want to shorten your abstract, if you want to make your abstract tight, then you need time. So I didn't have time, and so I couldn't write a shorter abstract. That's what he said. Because I had no time, I wrote a very long abstract. That's what he said. Now, I would like to take you to literature. We think we are the only people who talk about writing theses, writing dissertations, writing abstracts. But no, I'm sorry, I can't agree with those people who believe that we are the only people who talk about writing abstracts. Shakespeare also talked about writing abstracts in a very indirect way. Now, in one of his plays, there is a very particular scene, and something very interesting happens in that particular scene. There are 5 characters in the scene, and this happens in the third scene of the third act of the play. There are 5 characters in all, and 4 characters are interrogating, questioning the 5th one. And the 5th one talks rather in a roundabout manner, and therefore one of the 4 characters who are interrogating this particular 5th character says, answer clearly. The second character says, I'm talking about the 4 characters who are interrogating. Yeah, could you please stop this? Somebody is trying to join us, and I'm hearing lots of noise here. Yeah, Rajesh, could you please ask them to stop this? Hello?
Sir, it cannot be stopped, sir.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So there is a particular scene in a particular act in one of those plays written by Shakespeare. There are 5 characters, and 4 characters are interrogating or questioning the 5th one. And the 5th character tries to answer the questions in a very roundabout way, in a vague manner, ambiguous way. And one of these 4 characters who are interrogating him says, speak or answer directly. The second character says, answer wisely. The third character says, answer briefly. And the last one says, answer clearly. Now, in my opinion, it was not Grice, H.P. Grice, who first propounded the theory or the idea or the notion, the concept of conversational cooperative principle. Now, the seeds of the notion, the seeds of the theory of conversational cooperation are there in Shakespeare, because these 4 characters are talking about answering questions clearly, wisely, and directly, and so on and so forth. So why am I talking about Shakespeare? Because we know that everything is connected, intertwined, interlinked. So then Grice has 4 maxims. The first maxim is the maxim of quantity. What does this maxim say? This particular maxim says, don't say or don't write more than how much is required. Don't write more than what is required. And don't write less than what is required. So this is the first maxim, the maxim of quantity. Then he talks about the maxim of quality. The maxim of quality requires us to produce evidence, to produce proof. And evidence in research is available in the form of data, for example, information, for instance. So quantity requires us to be precise, to be pointed, and quality requires us to produce data, evidence, proof for whatever conclusions we're drawing in our dissertation. The third maxim is the maxim of relation. We're supposed to produce evidence, we're supposed to write in a way which is relevant. We should not digress, we should not deviate from the focus of the thesis or dissertation that we're working on. And the last one is manner. Manner refers to clarity, right? So our own guidelines, the guidelines prepared by ELTAI India, the guidelines prepared by ELTAI are very clear. They talk about focus, they talk about clarity, they talk about relevance. So all these are very important characteristics. Now, I'd like to say something about a thesis, for example. Now, I'm talking about related things. All these things are interconnected in a sense. In a thesis or in a paper, let's take the example of a research paper. For example, a research paper is usually divided into 3 sections. It can be divided into 4 or 5 sections, but usually it's divided into 3 sections. The first section is introductory section. The second one is discussion. The third one is conclusion or concluding section. Now, what is it that we do in the introduction? We tell our learners, our readers, what we are going to do. So tell them what you want to do is the introductory part. And in the second part of discussion, we say, do what you have decided to do. So the first one is tell them what you want to do. That is introduction. And do what you have decided to do. That is discussion. And then tell them what you have already done. That is the concluding part of your paper. Now, how does an abstract differ from a full paper? The process that is operative in the composition of an abstract is centripetal. That is, we have a focal point and we select only those portions of our research paper or research article which are relevant and which are very, very pertinent, right? As far as the writing of abstract is concerned. So the process that we observe, that we follow while writing an abstract is centripetal process. And when we write a full paper, the process can be described as centrifugal. We move away from the center and we try to make our dissertation, our thesis as interdisciplinary as possible. So we go to anthropology, philosophy, phenomenology, literature, language, linguistics, and so on and so forth. So we move away from the center so that we get more information about the topic that we are addressing. Now, it's very important for all of us to edit our abstract. We write an abstract. Let me explain the difference between summary and précis and abstract. And all these 3 follow the process of reduction. We have an original text and we want to summarize it. So we reduce the length of that original text in a summary. But there is no word limit. There is no length limit in a summary, right? It can be 1/3, it can be 1/10, it can be 2/3, and so on and so forth. So there is no word limit, there is no length limit. And in a précis, there is word limit, there is length limit. For example, I'm giving an example, a hypothetical example. Suppose I have written an article and I've written that article in about, let's say, 4,500 words. So that's my original document, my original paper. And someone asks me to summarize that. I can summarize it in, let's say, 3,000 words or 2,500 words, because there is no limit as far as words are concerned, as far as length is concerned. The only thing that we need to observe here is that the length of the summary should be shorter, right? Or the summary should be shorter than the original text. And when somebody asks me to write a précis of my article, I have to adhere to the norms, and the norms tell us that we should use our précis should be 1/3 of the original text, right? Now, what is it that we do when we write an abstract? For example, it's a summary, it's a précis, it's more than a précis. Let's say the original paper is in 4,500 words, the summary is 3,000 words, and the abstract can be, or the summary is 2,500 words or 1,500 words, right? So you can vary. In this case, the summary of my article is in, let's say, 1,000 or 2,400 words or 500 words, and the précis is 1,500 words. Now I can reduce it to 1/10, and I can I can write my abstract in 150 words. That is the guideline that has been given to us by ELTAI. So there is a difference between summary and précis and abstract, but the process, the underlying process is the same, and the process is the process of reduction. Now, it's very important for all of us to edit whatever we write. For example, I have written each and every word in my abstract. I have written each and every sentence that is there in my abstract. I have fathered the abstract, and therefore the abstract is my brainchild. And I would like my brainchild to survive as it is, right? I would like the brainchild to be there because I've fallen in love with whatever I have written. But that's not a good way. That's not a welcome kind of thinking. So I need to edit my own abstract ruthlessly, mercilessly, and I need to edit my abstract for verbosity, for repetition, for ambiguity, for missing points, for mistakes of grammar and spelling and collocation, and for cohesion and coherence, and for redundancy and superfluous expressions, and so on and so forth. Right. So I think this is what I had to say. I was not very well organized. I just wanted to share with you some nuggets. And one last point that I'd like to make note of here is that one can write one's abstract in third person, in the form of third person narrative or first person narrative. The third person narrative starts like the present, the researcher or the author, the writer of this particular paper wants to do this, right? So it's a third person narrative. Or it can be a first person narrative. I'm the writer of this particular paper, so I can say in my abstract, I have attempted to do 3 things in this particular paper, 1, 2, 3, whatever. So, and the third one is the neutral kind of narrative. For example, this present paper attempts to do something. So our abstract can be in third person narrative or first person narrative or neutral narrative, right? So this is what I wanted to share with you. I had a few stray ideas and I tried to present them in a very rather incoherent manner. Excuse me for that incoherence and lack of cohesion. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jaden Patil, for giving very valuable and important guidelines in order to draft abstract very effectively, focusing upon the maxims like maximum of quantity, maximum of quality, maximum of relationship, maximum of manner, and making our abstract centripetal. I'm sure that these young researchers, these young scholars will get an advice from you, a kind of a methodology or a technique for you to make an abstract very effective, because our abstract is the mirror, or it's like when we say resume, when we apply anywhere, the resume is our first impression. Similarly, when we want to publish any research paper in any international conference or in any journal, our abstract is our first resume. And I'm sure that your guidelines will definitely help our researchers to develop, to write, to draft best of the best abstracts for this international conference, which is going to happen in the month of December. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajesh. I can take a couple of questions if there are any.
Sir, question is after
Okay.
at the end we will have.
Okay. I'll wait.
Yes, sir. Now, I would like to introduce Dr. Xavier Pradheep Singh. He is working as an assistant professor in St. Joseph College Autonomous. Very young, dynamic teacher of English. And he has been instrumental in conducting various conferences, seminars, worked as a resource person also. He has conducted more than 50 workshops as a trainer and as a resource person. He is also working as a reviewer at national and international journals. His areas of interest is teaching English through virtual manner, and he is the one who wants to make English techno-savvy. Even he wants English teachers also to be techno-savvy with his ideas. So with this brief introduction, I welcome Dr. Xavier, and I request him to tell all the delegates and the researchers and the participants the process of sending the abstract and uploading it at the conference website. Over to you, Dr. Xavier.
Thank you so much, sir, for your words of introduction. Good
you.
evening, participants. So as you have listened to the other two speakers, Dr. Lal introduced the theme of the conference, and Dr. Xavier Patil, he introduced, he gave you some ideas to write abstracts. I will be demonstrating how to submit your written abstract in our conference website. So in order to in order to have a smooth review process, this year we have used a conference management software in our conference website. Okay, all you need to do is you have to go to conferences.eltai.in. I'll be posting the URL in the chat box. Okay, you have to go to conferences.eltai.in. This is the website we are using for our annual conference this year. This particular website is supported by a conference management software. And once you go to the website, you have to create an account for you. Okay, in the horizontal menu, you have an item called account. If you go to that, you will be able to create an account by typing your username and typing a password, and also your name, your affiliation, your email. There are some fields mandatory. You can just fill those fields. Others you can leave blank. Okay, so you'll have to enter the required details and click create. Once you click create, you will receive an automated email with your username and password. With that username and password, you have to log into our website. Okay, so on the top right hand corner, you have a fields where you can enter your username and your password. Yeah, I'm now entering my username and password. Then once you log in, okay, this is how this is the page you will reach. Okay, once you log in, you will reach your dashboard. You can click new submission on your dashboard, or on the right hand side panel, you have a button called call for paper. Okay, you have a link call for paper. You can go to call for paper. And once you go to call for paper, there also we have a link. Click here to submit your abstract. There are many ways you can reach this particular page. On the right hand side bar, you have call for paper. If you go to call for paper, there you have a link. Click here to submit your abstract. Or the easiest way could be in the horizontal menu, you have an item submit. Okay, click submit. Then you will arrive at the submission page. And the page is neatly organized with procedures explained clearly. So first, you need to choose the conference track. Our conference has got 7 tracks. So these tracks are explained clearly in the overview page and also in the call for papers page. You can read them in detail in the conference website. As of now, I'm just mentioning the titles of the tracks alone. So the 7 tracks are Indian ELT, Pedagogy, Autonomy, Technology, Research, Teacher Development, and Literature. So kindly note, literature is also one of our conference conference track. So papers on Indian writing in English, and also translations can be submitted for our conference. So once you choose an appropriate conference track, so how do you choose the conference track? Depending on the theme of your abstract, you have to choose the relevant conference track. So once you choose the conference track, choose the session type. Are you planning to make a paper presentation or a poster presentation? The only difference between a paper presentation and a poster presentation is, in a poster presentation, you are expected to prepare a poster that is of A1 size. Okay, in portrait mode, A1 size. The size is also specified in the website itself. So you have to prepare the poster and you have to display it at the allotted time in the allotted venue. And you are expected to stand near your poster. So during the allotted time, participants, the conference delegates will come and visit your poster. At that time, you can explain. Whereas paper presentations, you need to make a PowerPoint presentation and explain your research to the audience who have gathered in your room. Okay, so for paper presentations, you will have 10 minutes time. Okay, and the abstract should be around 100 and abstract should not exceed 150 words. Similarly, for poster presentation, the abstract should not exceed 150 words. So first choose the session type. So I have now chosen paper presentation. And then you need to make sure you have followed a certain guidelines. So there is a submission checklist. You have to check each of those items. The first one is the abstract has not been previously published, nor is it before any other conference for consideration. So if you agree with that, you have to check that particular box. The abstract adheres to the technical and content criteria outlined in the author guidelines, which is found in the call for abstracts. So you can go through the author guidelines provided in the website. And then the abstract is submitted by the main presenter and it does not have more than 3 joint presenters. Kindly note, an abstract cannot have more than 3 presenters. It can be a collaborative paper, but it should not have more than 3 presenters, and the abstract must be submitted by the main presenter. Okay, so it has to be submitted by the main presenter, and one cannot be the main presenter in 2 papers. You can be the main presenter in 1 paper, and you can be a joint presenter in another paper. More than 2 papers you cannot present in our conference. And then the title of the abstract should not exceed 15 words. Okay, so kindly make a note of it. And abstract should also not exceed 150 words. And in the abstract text, okay, you will copy paste the abstract text on the next page, where you should not enter your name or the title of the abstract, because the abstracts will be blind reviewed. So you should not include your name in the abstract text. You will have a separate field where you have to enter your name. Okay, so you have to check all these submission checklists. And then if you have any specific thing to convey to the conference conveners or directors, you can post, you can type your message here. Okay, otherwise you can leave it blank. And then click save and continue. You will go to the next page where you have to enter your first name. Okay, you have to enter all the author's name. When you enter the author's name, kindly be careful, because this is the detail we will use it for printing our certificates. So kindly make sure there are no errors in your names, and in the affiliations of all the presenters. So you have to type your first name and last name and your email address and your affiliation. Kindly in the affiliation, kindly include your position also, because that has to be printed in the certificate. And then choose the country. If you want to include your bio statement, you can include some 3 or 4 sentences about you, or else you can leave it blank. And then if your paper has got a joint presenter, you have to click add author. There is an add author button below the first author's detail. So if you click add author, some more columns will appear. Okay, when you have joint presenter, you need to choose who is going to be the principal contact for the editorial correspondence. So this year we are rigorously reviewing all the abstracts, and we have also enabled communication between the reviewers and the paper presenters. Usually, that would be a tedious process, but this year we have installed a particular software so as to make the communication between the reviewer and the author smooth one. So you have to choose who is going to be the principal contact for the editorial correspondence. Okay. So after entering the details of the author and joint presenters, you have to paste your abstract. So this is where you have to paste the title of your abstract. Okay, I'm just typing title of your abstract there. And similarly, in the abstract, in the field for abstract, you have to just paste the text of your abstract. Here, you should not include the title or your name. Okay, you have to type your abstract. And the box will not accept more than 150 words. So when you copy paste, make sure that your abstract is complete. Okay, sometimes you might have typed your abstract in a Word file, and then you might copy and paste it here. So more words, if your abstract exceeds 150 words, those words will be automatically removed. So you have to be very careful. So check before you click the submit button. And after pasting your abstract, you need to provide the keywords. At the maximum, 3 or 4 keywords you can provide here. Okay, keywords are content words that are relevant to your paper. So you can type the keywords here and then a semicolon. Okay, that way you have to enter your keywords. Okay, at the maximum 4. Do not exceed 4 keywords, or 3 would be ideal, I would say. Okay? So you can provide your keywords here, and then there is a field for language, that is EN, English. You need not change it to, by default it would be EN, English. And then suppose your paper is supported financially supported by any agencies, then you can mention it here in supporting agencies. Otherwise, leave it blank and then click save and continue. Okay, your abstract is submitted. That's all. The process is very simple. Once your abstract is submitted, kindly, once your abstract is submitted, the organizing committee will receive it, and we will assign a particular reviewer, a blind reviewer for your abstract. The reviewer will go through your abstract and will suggest us whether the abstract can be accepted as it is, or whether it needs some revision from the author, or whether it has to be rejected. Okay, these are the 3 suggestions the reviewers will provide us. And once we receive the reviews from the reviewers, we will send it back to you. Okay, we will send it back to you with the comments of the reviewers. And once your abstract is accepted, you are expected to submit the full paper. Kindly remember, you have to submit your full papers before 30th November, because we are planning to publish select papers in our UGC care listed and peer reviewed journals. So submitting a full paper will be an added advantage for you. Okay, so and at any time you can log into the website to check the status of your abstract. You will also be able to see at what stage your abstract is. Okay, so as you see on the screen, I have submitted an abstract now. The status is abstract in review. You will also see stage 1, stage 2, and if it is accepted, you will also receive a mail, and also you will see a message in the conference website. And all accepted abstracts will be visible to all participants. So in order to see all the accepted abstracts, you have to go to the right-hand side of our conference website, where you have a link, presentations. If you go to that link, you will see all the accepted abstracts submitted by all the participants. So when your abstract is accepted, it will appear here with your name. Okay, and we are also planning to index it in all major indexing services, primarily in Google Scholar and also in other indexing services, so that you will get a greater visibility for your abstract and also for your paper. So I hope I have explained the process of submitting an abstract in our conference website clearly. If you have any question, you can ask. You can pose your question to all the 3 of us. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Xavier, for giving detailed information about submission of the abstract and its process, as well as the reviewing part of it. Now, this session is open for question and answer. I appeal all the participants and researchers to ask questions to our resource persons, including Dr. Z and Patil also.
So we've also got some questions in the chat box.
So how do we?
So there is a question from Kiran Deep. I think Dr. Zadan Patil will be able to answer.
Yes.
Kiran Deep has asked, please let me know if the following outline will be helpful in writing an abstract for a research paper wisely and accurately. Introduction, problem questions, and a brief note on the conclusion.
Could you please repeat the question? Xavier,
Yes, sir.
could you please repeat the question for me?
Will the following outline be helpful in writing an abstract for a research paper wisely and clearly? Introduction.
Wisely.
No, sir. She has asked whether she can, in an abstract, whether these three things can be included: introduction, problem, question, and a brief note on the conclusion.
Yeah,
Can
I
these
think,
three things be included?
yeah, I think these three things are very important in an abstract, right? Like you are floating the main idea in the very first 2 or 3 sentences, right? And then you have the second one is, what is it?
Problem questions. Introduction, problem questions.
Problem questions, which is similar to hypothesis or research question or research objective. And finally, there are some conclusions drawn.
Yes, sir.
In the research process.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's not very rigid, you know. Sometimes people make it very rigid, very hard and fast, very dry as dust. You know, they say, don't use the personal pronoun I. Now, I don't agree with these people who emphasize or who insist on the use of distance kind of researcher, or who want us to avoid the use of personal pronouns like I and we and so on and so forth. Now, I know I am the researcher. You know I am the researcher. I have chosen the topic. I have addressed this particular problem, and I've carried out the research and I've drawn the conclusions. What's the problem? What's wrong in using the personal pronoun I? I mean, I advise my I used to advise my MPhil and PhD researchers and other researchers to feel free to use the personal pronoun I. I mean, you can't really separate yourself from the researcher that you are in the process. You know, can you really separate the dance from the dancer? No, you can't. You can't separate the dance from the dancer. So you can't separate the research from the researcher. The total personality of the researcher, intellectual personality, linguistic personality, and so on and so forth, all these aspects of the personality of the researcher are reflected at different points in the dissertation, in the thesis. So it's very flexible. I try to make it as flexible as possible within the framework of norms and rules laid down by the University Grants Commission or different universities and so on. So I think that's a legitimate way of writing an abstract.
Sir, there is one more question from Vinita Goyal. Is it advisable to touch upon literature review briefly in our abstract? I would not advise my supervisee or my researcher to do that. Right? Because your abstract has to be written in 150 words. Right? So you have to be very, very meticulous, very, very ruthless, as I said some time ago, very merciless. Because I have written these words and these sentences and this abstract, I love them very much. And I would not like to trim them or, prune them, because in my opinion, every word that I have written down in my abstract is very important. Yeah, I mean, it's important from my point of view, but I must think from the point of view of the reader, right? So maybe if you want, if you think it is pertinent, if you think it's essential, not just necessary, if you think it's essential, then you can maybe mention it in a sentence or so. Just a few words, maybe 8-10 words.
because anyway, you're going to talk about the literature review later, maybe in the second chapter of your thesis, or in the second part of your research paper, and so on and so forth. So you can talk about those things there, not in the abstract, not in the, I don't think so. But you are the best judge. You know the requirements of your abstract, and therefore you are free to decide. But please make sure that there is no verbosity, there is no repetition. You need to be ruthless while editing your abstract. Back to you, Xavier. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There are some questions which are related to the technical aspects. I'll answer those questions, sir.
Please.
There are some participants who have asked whether there will be any possibility of having a virtual presentation. Dear participants, this is our first face-to-face conference after the series of lockdowns. So we thought, it would be a nice experience to have meet everybody face to face and then have a professional network. So we haven't thought of virtual presentation so far, and we don't want to have it as of now. So as of there is no provision to have virtual presentation in the annual conference. And somebody has asked about the word limit, word length for the full paper. Your full papers can be anywhere between 2,500 and 4,000 words, excluding the abstract and the list of references. And someone has asked how to choose the keywords. Keywords are content words. Okay, keywords are content words that are relevant to your paper. Words that you repeatedly use in your paper are the main theme of your paper, or the theoretical aspect or some methodological aspect. You can use those content words in the keyword section when you submit your abstract.
Yeah, can I add a word or
Yes,
two?
sir. Yes, sir.
You're right. You said the right thing as far as the use of keywords is concerned. Keywords and the title of the abstract are two things which indicate to the future reader whether he or she should read the article or not. They should capture the gist, right? They are like the pivot, and the whole research paper, the whole research process moves around this pivot. It's like a grinding stone, and at the center of the grinding stone, we have a pivot, and all other parts of the grinding stone move around the pivot. So the keywords and the title are the pivot, right? So we need to be very careful. Sometimes people choose words which have not been used in the paper, in the research article. They use synonyms, synonymous words. But you are right. We can choose those words which have already actually been used in the text, in the paper, the article, and around which the whole paper rotates or moves, revolves. Thank you. Back to you, Xavier.
Thank you, sir. And there is a question from Shabira Hussain and Nimisha Patil about the number of slides that they can have for the presentation. There is no hard and fast rule for the number of slides that you can make use of in your presentation. You will have only 10 minutes, and audience will be there to listen to you, not to just view your slides. So you can have any number of slides, as many slides as you want. But I would suggest, if you have minimum number of slides, okay, say for example 5 or 6, that would be easy for you to manage and talk more. And you can include photos, videos if you want. If they are really supporting your paper, you can have photos and videos that are allowed. And Mr. T.H. Lawrence has asked a question about accommodation. Can we stay at a place of our choice in Navi Mumbai and join New Mumbai and join the conference? Certainly, you can stay anywhere in Mumbai and attend our conference, sir. there are no more questions. Over to Dr. Rajesh.
Can we go to the last part, Xavier, or anything to be
Yes,
added?
sir. Yes, sir. You
Okay.
can go. Yeah.
The last part of today's webinar is vote of thanks on behalf of Changu Thakur Arts, Commerce, Science College, New Panel Autonomous, as well as English Language Teachers Association of India. I take this opportunity to extend sincere thanks to our prominent resource persons, Honorable Dr. Z.N. Patil, Honorable Dr. C.A. Lal, Dr. Pradheep Xavier. It's time to thank Dr. K. Ilango, Secretary of ELTAI, Dr. Sanjay Arora, Vice President, Dr. Shravan Kumar, Dr. Ram for their consistent support and guidance. It's time to thank our Dynamic College Principal, Professor Dr. S.K. Patil, for his guidance and motivation in the process of organizing this webinar as well as the coming conference scheduled in the month of December. It's time to thank our IQC coordinator, Dr. B. Diago, for being with us and attending this webinar. I also sincerely thank my colleagues for their contribution, and it's time to thank all the technical team of ELTAI who have contributed directly or indirectly in the process of making this webinar successful. Last but not the least, it's time to thank all the participants, teachers, researchers, delegates from India as well as abroad for sparing your valuable time and attending this webinar virtually on the topic how to write effective abstracts. And our mission is to have more than 300 abstracts for this international conference, as well as to have more than 1,000 registration of English teachers across India as well as globe. Once again, thank you everybody for sparing your time and being with us virtually for this pre-conference webinar on writing abstract. Before we conclude, I appeal all the participants to fill the feedback form, as well as there is one announcement, that is ELTAI is organizing 104th webinar on interaction with national awardee teachers on 30th October 2022, and the timing is 4:30 p.m.